I'm Austin Lugo.
I'm Andrew Harp.
This is With Nothing to Say.
Let's talk about Princess Mononoke.
So, as our final feature for the month of January, as part of our animation month thing, you picked another Hayao Miyazaki film. A film, well, not a film. Director we started with at the beginning of the month. And it's also the director we're ending with. So, it's a nice bookend of animation style. Why did you pick Princess Mononoke for the final film of the month?
It's like I would say it's the best Miyazaki movie easily. It's easily the best one. It's probably the best Studio Ghibli movie, even though I haven't seen every single movie that's come out of the studio. Yeah, it's just the best Miyazaki movie. Like this month, I've just been like watching a lot of animated movies. Like I do watch a different one each day, rewatches and first watches. And I knew I wanted to rewatch this one just because it's one of my favorites. And yeah, watching it again, it is once again cemented as one of the greatest animated movies of all time. It's crazy, and yeah, it's incredible.
So, in preparation for this film, I did watch the rest of Hayao Miyazaki's films. So, I found this one by far to be the most violent, definitely the most adult. Basically, the film's about this prince, and he lives in like this community that once used to be like this large, very important community, but since has fallen out of favor for one reason or another. And he's like the last prince of the line or whatever, and he has to go to the Iron City, or like Iron Ore, whatever the name of the city is, the city where they produce all the iron. And he has to go to them and tell them to stop doing the shit they're doing because the animals are forest creatures are eating the iron, and then they are becoming possessed by this evil demon spirit thing, and he's there to try to stop them.
Yeah, and during, of course, his journey, he's basically cursed by evil demons, and he's basically becoming an evil demon himself, basically, during the course of the movie. So yeah, him going to the city, Iron Town, Iron City. He is also attempting to try to cure himself of his ailment. It's a curse, but it's like a, as we see throughout the movie, it's kind of a curse with some benefits, right? Like he's given like super strength and stuff, but yeah, it's gonna eventually kill him. It's adult. When we say, I guess when you say adult, it's like I think it's also probably the most mature. Well, I don't even know mature. Maybe the most like complex of the movies I've seen. I find it very complex. There's like a lot of characters. It kind of reminds me of like a Lord of the Rings movie or something like that, or like the Lord of the Rings, where it's like like warring factions and groups and kingdoms, and um, they all are having a hard time like understanding each other, like in any way, shape, or form. So they kind of jump to conclusions and things like that. It's really like not too far from like the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings books or anything like that. Honestly, in terms of the story, it kind of also reminds me of like Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, like that video game. To kind of like describe the movie in kind of like with a video game term, it's kind of a very like open world movie. They do a really good job at making it feel Ashitaka, the prince, our lead character, um, is like everywhere. They just really make the world seem like really large, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, right? And it just seems like he gets around to every area. I don't know how to describe it, except like open world is probably the only way I can describe it.
No, I see what you're saying. I think this is one of the things that Miyazaki is very good at. And when I think of kind of that open world kind of design, something that feels very complete, I think is something like Spirited Away, which also kind of has this sort of feel to it. But I think Miyazaki has this incredible ability to create these sort of worlds and create all these different rules and different systems. It feels as if these worlds, in some sense, actually exist. It feels as if we are jumping into this world, which I think every great film does, is you're kind of become part of that world for hour and a half, 2 hours long. I think this one was kind of long. It's like 2 hours and 16 minutes or something like that.
It's a little over 2 hours, yeah.
So the prince, he's been cursed, and he needs to go to Iron City to. I don't know if it's necessarily a cure, because like they're like sage woman person, they're like elder. She's like, you're just gonna die of this, and that's like that's how the movie begins. It's similar to how it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She's like, we have to assume that you're gonna like die. You know, I think so. Like you're basically banished from the village. You know, like I'm sorry, but you got to go. I like the opening scene, by the way, where he fights the boar. The boar is like really scary, and it's like covered with like these cursed sludge worms. It's really
Those
good.
things are freaky, man.
They're really cool. And like they get on his arm and they kind of stain his
Mm-hmm.
arm. And yeah, like you said, they find the iron ball in the boar and, you know, they talk to him. They're like, you got to go. And they were super sad about it. He begins his adventure. And yeah, he begins his sprawling adventure, like you said.
He's riding around, he's doing his thing. The elder says, you gotta get the hell out of here, you gotta leave. And he leaves. I think almost immediately he comes upon like a village that's being attacked. And this guy and the prince is like, you guys gotta move. Like, I got shit to do. I don't have time for this shit. And they attack him because they assume he's fighting for this small village. And Prince Mononoke just immediately starts slaughtering people. He's shooting arrows, heads are falling off, arms are falling off.
Mononoke is a girl.
Wait, but the print, I'm talking about the prince.
Yeah, Prince Ashitaka.
Whatever. Heads are being cut off. People are dying.
I know it's so good. I love when he decapitates people with his arrows. That's so satisfying when he like snaps their heads off. That's so good. That's why it's the best one.
I was not expecting that at all. I was very much surprised when I saw shit just flying off people's bodies. I was certainly thrown back by it.
That's why it's the best one. It is.
I guess.
There's never, I can't think of another Miyazaki movie like that.
I don't think there is. I mean, unless Wind Rises is, which I don't think it is. It's just so intense. Watching all the Miyazaki films within the span of a month, I wonder why this one is so different from the others. I mean, obviously, there's plot and all that, but like this one has such a darker tone. I can't really exactly like figure out why this one is like why Miyazaki chose this for this one and didn't for any of his other. Like, why is this one stray in the way it does?
Good question. I'm sure maybe like there's some like interview or something where he kind of talks about it more in depth. It's very different, but I feel like it's also very similar. I like it too because it kind of strays from aviation a little bit. You know, Miyazaki's movies are always like have or are about aviation. I'm glad that in this movie they decided to do something a little bit different and not have any planes in it. It's almost like his angry. It's like his angriest movie almost. You know.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. Like there's some sort of like pent up rage because all I would describe a lot of his films as very calm, chill, has that kind of vibe to it. Just walking around, making friends along the way, that sort of thing. Where this one's so much more rage induced, and also a lot of the characters I would say in this one, where in a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films, like there's not really a bad guy. Like everyone's just kind of like doing their thing. Everyone's just kind of like nice, and maybe like there's some people going against other people, but no one's really kind of cruel or mean. But this one, on the other hand, I think a lot of people seem to be like there's not really a good guy here. Like a lot of people kind of seem to be in the wrong. They all kind of a lot of them, except for the prince and maybe Princess Mononoke at times, but right, a lot of them are fueled by kind of evil and hate and rage, and that's like what the demons are. I guess they're like fueled by hatred or whatever, which is very different.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously the another thing that is like in every like goddamn Miyazaki movie is like nature and like things having spirits and stuff like that, like natural things having spirits and all that crap. um but in this movie it's kind of interesting because it's like yeah, there is that idea in this movie. And then the other thing too is that like humans are evil and they will destroy nature, right? Like, and nature is precious and beautiful and amazing, which it is. But it's also evil, right? Like nature is kind of evil in a way. And in Mononoke, I think that's another reason why it might be a little darker, is because it kind of also accentuates that idea, the idea that like, yeah, like humans, like we know they're evil. But also nature is also extremely evil. and maybe in a very punishing kind of way, right? Like they're little literal like gods, like spirit gods as they call them. You know, the great forest spirit. You know, he's not like a Totoro who's just kind of like a chill like forest spirit who can is just kind of helping little kids and stuff like that. He literally like is the bestower of life and death.
It's super intense.
I love it. It's so good. And you were talking about too, like how like everybody is like kind of an asshole, right? Like a little bit. When he goes into the village, he meets the monk, right? And you're like, oh, look, he meets a friend, and he turns out to be like a really bad guy later in the movie,
Like arguably the worst.
like arguably the worst guy, yeah. But you don't know at first though.
I love that kind of initial meeting with the monk because I'm like, oh, it's the classic Hayao Miyazaki. He's met a friend, right? They go to a cave. They do that thing they do in those movies. They sit around, they talk, right? They get, philosophical or whatever. I'm like, oh, this is going to be like, classic. He's going to meet, 20 different friends. But of course, we learn that the monk has very nefarious wants and desires and does not give a shit about like anybody. Like he just wants to do his shit and he will murder everyone, human, spirit, doesn't matter. Like he's just out for himself in the worst of ways.
That's a whole movie, you know. It's all about like it's a very everybody's like super greedy and stuff. Um, that includes Lady Eboshi, who's kind of like a weird, complicated character. Um, I think we are introduced by her leading like a bunch of like cows trying to transport a bunch of rice, right?
Yeah.
I think that's when we first meet her.
Yeah.
That's also where we're introduced to the wolves, the big wolves.
Sure are. And Princess Mononoke too. It's pretty intense.
That's a really good scene.
Oh yeah. She's like leading these people to bring rice because I guess they don't have rice in their village. So they have to like transport it or whatever. And they're going up this treacherous mountain and it's raining and, dark and blah, blah, blah. And these wolves come led by Princess Mononoke.
And the wolf goddess Moro,
I think it's Moro.
she's the really big one.
Yeah, the really big wolf. And they're attacking, and the lady and her like warriors, I guess, have these firework rifle kind of things. It's like old school, like
They're like big cannons.
yeah, like 12th century hand cannon things. They're really cool. Like the design's like really interesting. And they're firing them at the wolves, and the wolves are attacking, and then it's back and forth and back and forth. And then people die, like they fall off the cliff, and and one of the generals is like, "Hey, should like we go help them?" And she's like, "No, they're dead. Like just fuck off. Just fuck them, I guess." And just move on. And you have like immediately really like complicated feelings about this character because on the one hand, she's protecting her people, she's doing the best she can. She's saving lives. She's fighting for what she believes is right. But on the other hand, she's also abandoning people that very well might be, and we immediately learn, are alive. So complicated feelings.
Yeah, and she also like shoots the wolf. She shoots the big wolf. And yeah, like you said, Ashitaka is an interesting character because he's like right in the middle. He is sympathetic to everyone, right? Like he's sympathetic to nature and he's sympathetic to humans. So that makes him kind of an enemy of everyone, but also a friend of everyone. But he finds like two guys that were badly injured, and he's like, okay, I'm going to transport you guys out of here. And that's when he also meets the wolves. He meets Princess Mononoke San, and he's like, hey guys, I'm over here. And they're like, go away, we don't like you. And he's like, okay. And which is kind of a beautiful scene, like that scene where like San is like she's trying to like suck like the bullet out of the forest god, out of the wolf god, and she's got like blood all over her mouth. That's great. And like yeah, like she's got like the wolf hood and stuff like that, like really cool. And yeah, Ashitaka, he has his first encounter, as I've mentioned, with the great forest spirit, which is an important being in the movie. And then I think that's more or less that's where we're introduced to Irontown.
He's at Irontown. People come to greet him. They're immediately suspicious of this guy because I guess anyone they don't know is just a villain to them.
Yeah, it's a xenophobia thing, yeah, right? Like,
yeah, it's a classic nationalist xenophobic kind of shit. They're like, oh, we don't like this outsider. But of course he's bringing two injured people. Like he literally saved their lives. And some people are like, yay, you're saved. And then other ones are like, oh no, we hate this guy. And it's a really strange dynamic to be simultaneously loved and hated all at the same time. Lady Eboshi comes because the like head man person, I don't know what his title is. He's like, I guess he's like her bodyguard or something, head of security, something like that. He's like, we gotta kill this guy. We gotta. She comes along and she's like, no, don't kill him. Like we'll take care of him. And she kind of leads him away.
I really like Irontown. I think it's probably like the best like place ever conceived in a Miyazaki movie in terms of like a city or a town. Because it's like so it's such a complex place. Um, and it's extremely interesting. Ashitaka, he kind of does like his investigation work basically. Like he walks around Irontown, he sees what people do and who they are. That's basically what he does while he's in Irontown at the beginning. And he learns that like it's like a town of like it's like a refuge for like outcasts, pretty much, you might say. There's men and women, and the women are basically people who were rescued from larger cities who are working in I think brothels. Um, and now they work to process the iron in Irontown. Of course, what has happened, as we've seen throughout history, that area is like kind of destroyed, right? More or less, it's a very small area in retrospect to the whole, area of Japan or whatever they live. But all the trees are cut down and stuff, and it's kind of this area that's being drained of its resources. So, which is kind of like really kind of part of the conflict of the movie, I guess.
Yeah, they're trying to mine the ore of the mountain that they're on top of or next to or something.
They're next to the mountain, and they're trying to like cut down the trees on the mountain to get into the mountain to steal the iron, but the wolves don't want them to, I think.
Yeah, and the apes are like at night, they replant the trees. And so then the humans fire on the apes, so then they won't replant the trees, so that they can get at the order. I also like the way the apes look, like especially not at the end, but like at the beginning, they're like these shadowy kind of figures.
They're really, really scary.
They're like this like moving black glob. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. The boars are really cool too. All the animals look really cool. The animals are weird because they're like obviously like they're based off real animals, but they're kind of like different sizes and stuff, like they're just bigger, like the boars are bigger than usual. The apes kind of look that way too.
And the prince is taken with Lady Eboshi to her garden, which they seem to be lepers. They're like all bandaged up. You can only see their eyes. And again, you get this sort of complicated relationship with Lady Eboshi because on the one hand, she's built this community, she's protecting this community, she's protecting outcasts, women, people who are often hated by the rest of the world, lepers, and literally within the leper community, yeah, she gives them a purpose, right, a meaning, but literally within the leper community, she's building weapons to murder, people, animals, nature. And so the relationship just continues to grow more and more complicated, and you don't, at least I have like no idea how to feel about Lady Eboshi at this point, because on the one hand you're like, oh, awesome, great, you're protecting all these people, but on the other hand, maybe don't build weapons. Just a thought.
Right. It's kind of like, yeah, it's complicated because, yeah, it's like, oh, we're bringing in all these people that no one wants, and they're making the iron so we can make our weapons of mass destruction. It's like, nothing has really changed since then. It's like, oh, we're creating jobs, right? Like we're creating jobs for people, and we're uplifting them out of their like difficult situations, but the things that they are doing are creating things that all they do is destroy and kill, and that's their only purpose.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not optimal.
Probably be better just to like uplift these people, but then again, like having a purpose is also nice, so it's kind of complicated, which is why it's so good. It's not very clear cut.
But Princess Mononoke, she and the wolves meet with. Is she meet with the apes? No, she meets with the apes later.
Well, she tries to kill Eboshi first, which is a great part of the movie.
She tries. Yeah, that's right. She runs in. She's super, fast and slick, running past bullets and all that shit. And everyone's trying to get her. And of course, they're a bunch of bumbling fools. And she immediately gets past them. And she's at Lady Eboshi. and they're fighting, they're at it, they're going back and back and forth, back and forth. And then the prince jumps in between them because again, like you said, he's the friend of all, but he's also the enemy of all. And of course no one's really sure how to feel about the prince because in the community they're like, well, Princess Mononoke is clearly the bad person in this situation. Like she's the bad person.
We do like Ashitaka. He's cool. Like he's a cool guy.
He's a cool guy, real handsome guy.
He's handsome guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But he splits the two up and he basically knocks both of them out. Like they're both unconscious and he fights his way out of the iron gates with his super demon arm, like using super strength, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Even though it's killing him, he gets like really cool powers from it.
Worth it.
But they shoot him too. They do shoot him. They do basically accidentally shoot him.
Yeah, that's right. They accidentally shoot him and he's down. He's down for the count, right? He's not down. Like he keeps going and
he's able to leave.
He's able to leave. He like pushes open this gate that takes 15 people to open and he opens it by himself. It also seems like sometimes his demon arm kind of does its own thing and he's just kind of attached to that. Do you get that feeling too?
No, yeah, that's the point, right? Like occasionally it kind of like acts out. It's like a Bruce Campbell's arm in Evil Dead 2, right? Like it kind of has a mind of its own.
That's exactly what I thought. It
kind of has a mind of its own, right? So it's like, yeah, it kind of like flails around and sometimes it'll like do things that he doesn't want it to do.
But they escape on his reindeer thing.
Yeah, cool. He's probably like one of the best like animal companions in any movie. He rocks.
He does rock. He's the bomb.
I like him a lot.
So they escape on Yukul and they're climbing up the mountain and Princess Mononoke, she's grateful or whatever, and the apes have decided that the only way to stop the humans is to eat one of them and then gain their strength to basically slaughter them, which again, pretty intense. I did not expect cannibalism to be part of this movie.
Yeah, I like the apes, but I guess like the one thing about the movie is that the apes don't really have like that big of a footprint in the movie. I guess they don't really do much in the grand scheme of the movie.
No, they're more of like little decorations. They're just there on the sidelines.
Which I'm fine with. Like, it's not really a complaint. It's just like, yeah, I mean, they don't really do much, but they're cool.
But Princess Mononoke, she takes the prince to the like healing waters place. I don't know how to describe it exactly. It's like where they always meet for things, and it's where the forest god, like that's where he chills, right?
Because like the forest spirit, he like at day he's like a really cool deer with like this crazy looking like red face, but at night he turns into like this really tall like night crawler. I think they say night crawler, invisible being or something like that, and he kind of transforms back and forth. Yeah, like they go to the island. She like places him like on the island, and then the forest spirit kind of comes down, transforms into the deer. Earlier in the movie, Ashitaka was able to get a glimpse of him in his deer form, and he's seeing him again, and he's able to heal his bullet wound, but not his demon arm.
Which the prince is pretty ticked off about, or at least, he's not happy about it, because he's like, you healed me, but you only healed me enough so I can just die later. Like, you didn't, like, because the whole reason he was going, I guess the whole reason he left his village at this point is he says he was going to meet the forest god, because he was hoping that the forest god would have mercy on him and heal him of this demonic wound, which I guess it's unclear if the forest god can do that or not, but either way, the prince is under the impression that the forest god is just choosing not to. He doesn't feel great about the situation.
No, but he he continues on to he likes San a lot. He wants to help San do whatever she can. They work together. San is now kind of a more trusting now, because I think like the forest spirit healing him is maybe like a sign or something that he's like a little trustworthy, I guess.
The boars show up, right?
Yeah, the boars are like, they're pissed off because their god was shot by Eboshi, and they're angry that they're cutting down all the trees and all that.
Yeah, they're pissed because the human got saved. So they're like, why is it that the forest gods decide that the human saved and our boar god can't be saved? Which, I mean, fair criticism, but of course the forest god's supposed to be, he is the giver of life and death. So his opinion, or their opinion, is beyond the knowledge of animals or humans. Like, it's not for anyone else to say, I guess.
No, they're just kind of like, it's like, why have we been forsaken? We're having a hard time. But yeah, their plan is that they're going to attack Irontown, right? But and San is like that's crazy. You're all going to die. And they're like, whatever. It doesn't really matter anymore. Okay. And that's also kind of where Ashitaka tells him, like, yeah, like your boar god, your friend, he turned into a demon, and I killed him because he turned into a demon. Because I think like the idea is that like if you're a god and you get killed or something, like you have hate in you when you die, I guess you turn into a demon, I think is the idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Like you don't die peacefully, you die like hatefully, I guess. So you turn into a demon.
A gross, black, seemingly very painful, excruciating demon thing.
I think, and we do see, the Boar clan try to attack the village. We don't see a lot, but I think more or less they're easily defeated.
Because it's a trap, right? They knew that the boars were going to attack, and they're like, we're gonna fuck them up.
We're gonna make them explode.
And the boars knew it was a trap too,
They don't care,
and the boars just don't give a shit.
and they're led by that really cool giant boar who's like blind, Okoto. He's awesome,
He's dope.
but he also dies horribly.
He does.
Everyone dies horribly in the movie. It's just a series of like horrible deaths. Like I said, people get decapitated, like they get shot, like it's crazy.
It's pretty intense. And that's also when the monk has come up with his plan to behead the forest god. I'm not exactly sure why. Do you?
So Iboshi wants to give the god's head to the emperor,
Okay.
in return for protection, and the monk Jigo wants the reward
Gotcha.
because the town is being attacked by like a bunch of samurais,
Yeah.
which while they're hunting the deer, that happens too. So like while all the monk and Iboshi, they're trying to hunt the forest spirit. At the same time, Irontown is being attacked by all the samurai. So Ashitaka has like all this stuff going on that he's trying to manage. It's crazy.
It's a lot. It's really intense. I mean, there's just so much shit going on throughout this whole film. And I think at this point, like it's just more and more shit happens. And so now you're like following like four different things because the town's being attacked. The monk is going after the forest god, is like hunting the forest god. This is all happening while she's attacking the boars. And then the prince is kind of like in the middle of all this. It's just happening like thing after thing after thing. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, and Ashitaka, he loves San obviously, and he's trying to like build like a relationship with her, and also try to like build a relationship with all the wolves as well, who are they're wild wolves and they don't really trust Ashitaka. So there's like a couple scenes, there's like a few scenes where they're all like hanging out and helping each other out and stuff like that. And yeah, no, it's a very complicated movie. Like I said, kind of like Lord of the Rings, right? It's like all these like clans and kingdoms and different races and stuff like that. They're all just like out for kind of their each other and their own groups and stuff, and it creates kind of like a horrible big bomb that kind of lights up the last parts of the movie for sure.
So then the prince goes to where the boars are?
Right.
Is he looking for Princess Mononoke? Is that why he goes to where the boars are?
I feel like he goes back because he wants to see how Irontown is doing, because they're being besieged by the samurai.
Right.
So he's like, oh, I'm going to help you guys. We're going to go get Iboshi because you guys are going to like get killed by the samurai, right? Like, they'll cut your heads off. And he is able to find one of the wolves under all the boar. There's just piles of boar everywhere. Like they've all been killed. Like it's like horrible. And he's able to like free a wolf who's like on top of a boar with the help of like the men from Irontown, who I think were fighting the boars out on the outskirts of the city. So it's like kind of like a moment where they help, an animal they previously wanted to kill, right? Like,
so the wolf gets free. The prince is like, where's Princess Mononoke? Like, I feel like she's in danger. I want to help her. I want to save her. And he does like his howling, like the wolf howls, I guess, to communicate to the other wolves. Cut back to Princess Mononoke, who's with the big boar.
The blind boar, Okoto, yeah.
Still there.
Yeah.
And he sees like these really creepy moving other boars. And like, it's very clearly like they're not boars. I thought they might have been like demons or something, but they're like humans with boar skins.
No, they're just people with boar skins.
And Princess Mononoke is like, those aren't people, but the boar just will not fucking listen at all. Like he has to give a shit.
Yeah, he thinks that they're boars, and he's like, he's they're using him to get to where the forest spirit is. he gets killed, right? And he's like dying. He's like in the middle of dying while he's running away, which is like there's blood everywhere.
Oh, it's so gross.
And he turns into a demon. And I think in the process of becoming a demon, she gets like sucked up in his demon goop. And she's like trapped in his demon worm goop slugs. That stuff's so good.
And they get to the pond island thing.
Yeah.
Forest God's there. Everyone, of course, everyone's there. Lady Eboshi's there. The prince is there. Princess Mononoke. They're all there. They're ready to murder each other. The prince is literally doing everything in his power. It's just less, he's just like the middleman. He's just trying to keep everyone, like, let's not murder the forest god.
He is just, it's like, yeah, there's like, why do we have to like kill people? Like, can we just like not do that? Like he's like, everyone just like has to chill, but no one listens to him. No one gives a
No
fuck.
one gives a fuck.
They do not care at all. The forest spirit arrives, right?
Sure does. Forest spirit shows up, not giving a shit about anything. Just like, whatever.
It kills Moro the wolf and Akoto the boar, right?
And the humans are like immediately confused because like, oh, I thought you were on the same side as blah blah blah. And of course they explain that, or the prince tries to explain that the forest god isn't on anyone's side. He's the keeper of all life and death. Like it's just like that's just their thing. And you would think at that moment the humans would go, wow, grow. And
what a beautiful creature. That's incredible. It's so complex and amazing.
Right. But they don't do that.
They don't do that at all. No. Like as it's turning into the Nightwalker, Eboshi shoots it in the fucking head. No. She shoots it. And then while it's turning into a Nightwalker, she shoots it again. She shoots it in the goddamn head.
And the head falls off.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, killing a god, not a great idea.
What's the great line that Eboshi says? She says like about like killing a god or something like that. She has a couple lines like that where it's like
she says something about wolf. They have to like shoot it twice. And then she says something else, something about like shooting in the head. I can't remember the line though.
I feel for me like the concept of them pursuing the forest spirit, who's like we said, a beautiful, incredible, weird creature god thing, like literally a god, is that it kind of represents like how low like humans will stoop for like money and power, right?
And the monk's like whole thing, right, through the whole film, he's like, well, I got a pardon from the emperor, like as if that's supposed to justify the murdering of a god, which kind of also plays into the idea you're suggesting of how low humans will go as long as they have some sort of as long as someone's justifying it, like it's fine, like we do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, including kill a beautiful god, which is just amazing. Like that's just like one of the greatest things ever. You have these like amazing gods, and like but then in the context of this movie, like humans, like through technology and science and greed, power, business, natural resources, it doesn't matter because I guess also too, like even though they're gods, they're animal gods, right? So they're still like lower than humans, you know what I mean? But in reality, they're probably like all the way up here from humans in the context of this world, but it still doesn't matter. They're animals, whatever.
Dumbass humans. So they capture the head. They put it in like some sort of box, like a treasure box thing, and the monk sprints off with it. And Lady Eboshi immediately realizes, like, this was not.
She completely regrets it right away.
Immediately. It's like, oh, that was a terrible idea.
It bites off her arm. Remember, the head bites off her arm. Well, like something. Oh, like a wolf bites off her arm.
The wolf, yeah.
But she's okay. She doesn't die.
She doesn't die. She's okay. But there's like this black sludge, like just coming after everybody. And if it touches you, like you're just murders everything in its path. So people are just running in all directions. They're freaking out. They don't want to die. People are going every which way. And of course, the monk somehow escapes, and Princess Mononoke and the prince chase after the monk.
I will say, I guess if there's one thing, like one criticism about the movie is that the end kind of comes very quickly. Like once the forest spirit is decapitated, that whole part of the movie, it like everything is resolved very quickly. But yeah, they like go to Irontown. They're like, everybody get out of Irontown. It's gonna get destroyed. And they're like, okay. And they run away. Everybody's fine. And yeah, San and Ashitaka, they're trying to pursue Jigo, the monk, after some persuasion, you might say. They're able to get the head back because it's like we're gonna die if you don't give the head back. Like we're just gonna melt into sludge. So you might as well.
And the monk's just like, well, I give up, I guess. All right, I guess.
All right, fine. I know. Yeah, he's not like an evil mastermind villain, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't, I don't even think he dies. He just kind of gives up.
He's just like, next time.
Ah, shucks. Whatever, I guess.
And then they give the forest spirit its head back.
Yep, they give it his head back, which I guess the ending is a little ambiguous because they have to give the head back before it's sunrise because then it will just die permanently, I think.
So they give it back. That's pretty much it, right? Nothing. Am I missing anything?
No, I think the spirit does die,
The
right?
spirit dies, yeah. But if they don't give the head back, the black sledge will like cover everything. I think is the idea.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. The spirit dies,
It has
but
to like die in peace, I guess. Like it can't be like in pain or something. I think that's the idea.
it's like the demon thing, right? Like it's the like I was talking about, like they became demons because they died in not in a peaceful way, but in a horrible, hateful way. Therefore, they became demons. Yeah, it's a nice ending. The everything is like healing again, and like trees and grass are growing. And Ashitaka says he's going to help rebuild Irontown. Iboshi's like, we're going to make a better town. We're gonna build back better. And Sana's like, yeah, I still don't fuck with humans, but we're cool, so we'll hang out like occasionally. He's like, okay. Oh, I forgot about the Kodamas.
The little white things.
I forgot about mentioning those. Those are great.
I love those little things. Those little guys with their little chirping head things. They're dope.
They're super cool. Like, they're established as like little tiny forest spirits that like if there's like a lot in one place, it shows that like the forest is happy and healthy. And so of course the like the Kodamas get killed by the sludge, but you see a single Kodama like at the very end. It's like the final shot of the movie.
Good shit.
That's the movie, I think. The spore spirit, he's like even though he dies, he's like the god of life and death, right? It's almost like he has to die occasionally, right?
So does that mean he'll come back to life? Because you see like one of those little forest spirit things. A reincarnation kind of thing? Is that the idea?
I mean, maybe like a phoenix, or yeah, like the idea of a phoenix or like a reincarnation thing. It's like if the force spirit is the god of life and death, then eventually he has to die, right? I mean, that would make sense. I mean, it's almost not a bad thing that he died, but it is. I mean, it kind of sucks that he did have to die, that there had to be this whole conflict. But I guess if it had to happen, then, maybe he did have to die in order for all of them to kind of, I don't know, see the error of their ways in some way. But yeah, like the whole thing, but still like them like hunting the spirit, the forest spirit is just like an amazing part of the movie. It's hilarious.
Well, Andrew, you want to give some final thoughts and a rating?
Yeah, it rocks. It's the best Miyazaki movie. It's the best Ghibli movie. I mean, just like any of these movies, it looks good. It sounds good. But it has the best story, easily the best story out of any of these movies. It is super complex in a way, relatively complex. The fantasy elements are really amazing. And, it's kind of one of those movies where protagonists and antagonists don't really exist, more or less. Everyone's like pretty complicated for the most part. You can kind of see everyone's perspective. And yeah, I just really like, what Miyazaki kind of did with kind of like the industrial qualities to it as well, with oh, we're discovering iron, let's make iron, and we can make with iron we can make even like better weapons and stuff, not just swords, but we can also make guns and things like that. And like Irontown is like a really cool place, and it's just a crazy movie. It just feels like all the movies that were made before this one are just kind of like a combination and culmination sort of meeting right at Princess Mononoke. Is just like we talked about, it's super violent as well, which I like. Sometimes I don't want to watch like a kiddie movie, like I don't at all for the most part. I watched like kiddie movies when I was a kid, so now I want to watch like movies that have like violence and stuff in it, at least sometimes. So it's nice to like watch a movie that you actually see people like get killed or decapitated or lose their limbs, because that shows you that the stakes are a little higher than usual. But yeah, it rocks. It's just incredible. Yeah, 9 out of 10, easy.
So this week I watched my favorite Miyazaki film and my least favorite Miyazaki film. My least favorite Miyazaki film of all his films, I think, is Castle in the Sky. I just didn't vibe with it. It's not bad. I mean, I think, I don't think Miyazaki's made a lot of any real bad films. At least, you talk about his Studio Ghibli era. But it's just like, it's kind of middling and it's fine. It's a little too cartoonish for me and the tone's kind of off. Princess Mononoke is great, but it's not my favorite Miyazaki film. Part of it is coming into it, I was expecting a Miyazaki film, and in many ways it very much is. But the violence definitely kind of threw me out of my element a little bit, and it took me a minute to kind of get back into it. But once I did, super fun, super intense. I think it might have been a little too much going on for me. Like, there never really felt like a moment to kind of just chill and breathe. Like, there was just always something going on, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's so different from so many of Miyazaki's film where it's mostly just kind of like sitting around chilling. And then there's like a little plot every now and then, where this one's kind of the opposite of that, where it's just like, it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and so much happens. And as we talked about, the ending comes super quick, which is honestly true with almost all of Miyazaki's films. Like, they just kind of end. And I think the forest spirit looks awesome. I think some of my favorite animation of Miyazaki's is in this film. I think Iron Town looks amazing. I love so many elements of it, but it was just a little too fast. Like, even though it's 2 hours and 16 minutes, I almost wish it was just a little bit longer, just like another like 10 minutes, just kind of like chill near the end. But it's good. I really liked it. So I'm going to give this film a solid 8 out of 10.
Let's go. It's so good. There's something about it. It's not really like a controversial take to say that you like this movie. Like, of course it's like really good. You know what I mean? So like me saying like how great it is, it's not really anything like it's not like a special take or anything like that, but it's, one I don't mind, returning to at least, like, I don't know, once a year, every other year. It's great.
All right, y'all. Thank you for listening. You can find me at AustinLugo12.
You can find me on Twitter at ADHarp24. You can also find me at Letterboxd, Retro Andrew, RETR0 Andrew. I write reviews on there sometimes. For next week, we are going to talk about the 1970s crime feature directed by Peter Yates, The Friends of Eddie Coyle. I'm very excited to watch this movie. I've heard a lot of really good things.
I've never heard of it, but if you're excited, I'm excited.
Let's go. Yeah.
And you can find this podcast wherever you hear podcasts. You can also find anything we're doing at the production company, films, podcasts, books, and more at lifethroughfiction.com. Thank you once again to Shannon, our amazing editor, and thank you all for listening.